Hello, today we are discussing about a poem, A Prayer for My Daughter. This poem is written by W.B. Yeats. A Prayer for My Daughter is one of Yeats' most celebrated poems. It was occasioned by sight of his infant girl on a stormy day. He begot his eldest child, a daughter, in January 1919. One day, a few weeks after her birth, a storm howled outside his house in the old Norman tower called Tour in County Galway. The storm disturbed his mind. He looked at his infant daughter, Annie Butteridge, asleep in her cradle, and prayed for her. Thereafter, he began to compose the poem but left it unfinished. The poem is an elaborated lyric of 80 lines. It has been divided into 10 stanzas of 8 verses, and the poetic thought of poem consists of a solemn prayer for a certain natural gift in his daughter and commentary on the heartlessness of a great beauty. The reference is indirectly of Morgan's cruelty to the poet's love, and the poem is marked by a strong protective attitude and a prayer for a balanced life of happiness for the young child. There is uncertainty and instability in in the world outside. The future appears to be equally uncertain. In these uncertainties, the poet prays that may the gift of God be such as to endow the young child with qualities which would win her with friend and happiness. The poet prays for the future well-being and happiness of his darling daughter. He wishes that he should have beauty, but not that overmuch beauty which makes a woman vain and cruel, and which makes them unappreciative even of sincere and true love. The poet wishes her to be married in an aristocratic family. The poet wants that his daughter should be free from all hatred. If she is free from hatred, she shall innocent and free from all evil influences. The poet feels that the intellectual hatred is worst. It was because of opinionated mind that Morgan, the most beautiful woman, married a boor. The poet wishes that her daughter should remain free from fantasism and of the intellect. The poet wishes that her own will and pleasure should be expressive of the will of heaven. She would then be happy despite of all the storms of misfortune that may strike against her innocent head and hostility of the world. He thinks that his daughter can remain innocent if she is free from hatred and opinionated mind. The innocence self is self-delighting, self-appeasing, and self-affrighting. The poet wishes her to be married in an aristocratic family of traditional sanctities and manners, governed by the customary laws of courtesy. The poem is manifesto of W.B. Yeats' personal ideals in the old age of settled life with a home and established status. The word ceremony is a keyboard in Yeats and in the book of Courtesy. The last stanza is theoretically the most important part of the poem. The imagery of the poem begins with the image of the wind. The image is sustained, but its form is continuously changed. Yeats focuses his poem on uh, two images. The rich horn of plenty, which he associates with courtesy, aristocracy, and ceremony, and the hidden laurel tree, which rooted in one rare perpetual place, can provide through the custom a radical innocence for the soul. A mention of beauty gives rise to the image of Helen and Paris, their union and the union of Venus and Hephaestus bring to our mind the union of Morgan and MacBride. The meter of the poem is iambus. Most of the words are iambic pentameter with an extra syllable at the end of a line here and there. But in some stanza, some verses are also iambic trimeter and tetrameter. For instance, the following verse of second stanza are iambic trimeter, each with an extra syllable. I quote here that the future years had come dancing to the frenzied drum. But the following verse of the fourth stanza is an iambic tetrameter. I quote here a crazy salad with their meat. The poem consists of 80 lines. They have been divided into 10 stanzas of 8 lines each. The first four verses of each stanza makes up two rhymed couple, but among the last four lines of each, the first verse rhymes with the fourth and the second with the third. Hence, the rhyme scheme of the poem or a stanza is A B B C D D C. The diction of the poem is simple, urban, and literary, but polysyllabic words have been employed freely so that the lyric has become an elaborate one. They have also made the stanza here heavier than those of the flute lyric. Words like intellectual hatred, opinionated, considering, magnanimities, accustomed, and ceremonies dull the verse to the tune of prosaic and flat lines. The style of the poem is modern with an undercurrent of romanticism. Some critics say that the poem is based on triviality, for the poet has not laid down or desired for his daughter a way of life consistent with the highest religious or moral ideas. He has not prayed for any Christian virtues for her. Stephen Spendel writes, reverent as he is, he does not convey any religion. Instead, we are offered an aristocratic faith. However, such criticism is not very correct. The poet does desire for his daughter organic innocence of the and freedom from hatred. The ideals which he upholds are practical ideals, and these can be easily translated into practice and state of grace again attained. He has laid down a way of life based on high moral virtues. It can move through description of the place. We are beginning to recognize the tower. It can freely describe the poet's mood of gloom and then move to the idea of beauty in human. From there, the symbols of love, etc. The poet has modified his views where his hopes for his daughter's life is concerned. He puts on out of his mind, as R.P. Balakumar says, his magical philosophy and all the struggle and welfare in of the intellectual in order to imagine his daughter living in innocence and beauty custom, and ceremony. Thus, this poem is a very beautiful poem written by a father for her daughter. Thank you.